If you're a Canon photographer, you're probably familiar with the picture style system for controlling your image's look and feel. And if you're not already familiar with that system, then I have a 5-part series that looks at how to use and customize that system in detail, and maybe you want to check that out. I'll have links in all the usual places. But that's not what we're talking about today. See, while the picture style system works well for still photography, it doesn't really tick all the boxes needed by professional video shooters. To address that, Canon developed a different system. They call it the Custom Picture system. And until recently, only Canon's professional video and cinema cameras actually used it. However, with the release of the EOS R5 and the R1, Canon has brought the Custom Picture system to their regular hybrid cameras. And that's what this series is about, the Custom Picture system. And in this second part, we're going to look at the basics of that system as it is implemented on Canon's EOS R5 Mark II, and by extension, the R1. Specifically in this video, we're going to look at how to navigate the Custom Picture system on the EOS R5 Mark II. We're going to start by looking at how to turn it on, where the settings are found, how to get to things, and how to understanding what the basic menus and functions do. Now, that said, if you've already seen my video on the R5C talking about the same things, a lot of this is going to be very familiar to you. However, there are several important differences between the Cinema EOS implementation and the one in Canon's hybrid EOS R cameras. And of course, as always, there are chapter markers included in this video for each section that I'm covering, so if you'd like to skip ahead, by all means, the option is there. So with the introduction stuff out of the way, if you are coming to these new cameras, from Canon's older hybrid cameras, and probably not the cinema cameras, then you might be wondering why you'd even need to care or want to care about the Custom Picture system. After all, picture styles have served photographers for right around 2 decades now, and they were good enough for video on Canon's DSLR and mirrorless cameras for more than a decade at this point as well, so why change things now? The short answer to the long answer is control. Specifically, the kind of control that professional videographers and cinematographers require in fine-tuning and adjusting their images. This level of control is necessary for Canon to have in these cameras if they want to bridge the gap between consumer hybrid and professional cinema cameras, and do so without needing to continue to develop special sort of bridge products like the R5C. So what's the difference? Well, picture styles are designed to be approachable pretty much by almost anyone. The controls like contrast and saturation affect the image globally and are things that people can understand quickly, even if they've never worked with professional camera gear before, or they've only ever worked with the camera app on their smartphone. In contrast, the Custom Picture system is much less about sort of that global overall look and adjustment of your images, although it can do that. And it's much more about dialing in details. Between the more granular control and the terminology that's used, which would be familiar to somebody from professional video, but probably not somebody who's never used a camera before, the system ends up being more technically demanding on its end users and therefore much less approachable for the novice user. So why should you care? Well, the answer to that really comes down to the fact that if you want to shoot in any of Canon's log formats on either your R5 Mark II or R1, you now must enable and use the Custom Picture system to do that. So yes, you'll notice I did say there, enable and use. On the R5 Mark II and the R1, you can actually use either the picture style system or custom picture system when shooting videos. However, to use some formats, specifically the log gamma curves, you have to use the custom picture system, which in turn disables the picture style system and its related controls. Now, both systems are available on the camera, of course, but each of them have their own capabilities and limitations. So, when using the picture style system, your footage will always be recorded using the Rec. 709 gamma curve and color space, or if you are shooting with HDR PQ mode enabled, then the HDR PQ gamma curve and BT 2020 or Rec. 2020 color space. Outside of that context, though, the rendering of your images is all controlled by your selected picture style, and you can do all of the kind of adjustments of color and contrast and saturation that you did in photos to those images or that footage. Now, on the other hand, if you choose to enable the custom picture system, then you get a completely different control system, one that has a lot more granularity, but also one that's more complicated. And in the process, you also lose access to some of the functions that you have on your camera. So to start with, you lose the dual shooting mode. This is the one where you can record stills while recording a movie or shoot stills while recording a movie. That will not be available. No picture styles, no still functionality. Additionally, all of the settings that you find on the color/tone/dynamic range page of the red shooting menu section, with the obvious exception of the custom pictures entry, will also be disabled. So you will have no picture style adjustments, no clarity adjustment. HDR movies with HDR PQ will be disabled. Auto lighting optimizer and highlight tone priority will also be disabled. You also lose the high ISO speed noise reduction function and the time-lapse movie recording function. Now, that said, at least in the case of the high ISO noise reduction and HDR PQ recording, the custom picture system actually has its own noise reduction system embedded in it and full HDR PQ recording support. So those aren't technically gone or lost, they're just in a different place and done a different way. So with all that said, the first step in actually using the custom picture system is enabling it. And there are two ways to go about doing this. You can do it either through the camera menu system or the quick control menu system. To enable the custom picture system using the menus, go to the custom picture menu entry found at the top of the color/tone/dynamic range page, or page 4 of the red shooting menu while your camera is in movie mode, and change the CP function setting to on. This enables the custom picture setting system and with it the other 4 entries in this menu. Now to do this using the quick control menus, you need to head over to page 2 of the Display To or Q2 quick control menu. Now, to get there, press the quick control button on the back of your camera twice, or press the Q2 virtual button when the live view quick control menu is active. Once in that quick control menu 2, the setting you're looking for is found on the second page here. So now that you've enabled the custom picture system, the next question is, naturally, how do you know what custom picture file you're currently using? Now, you can, of course, always go look in the menus. When enabled, the right half of the custom picture menu entry will show the active custom picture number. Additionally, the custom picture submenu will show the file number, custom picture file number, that is being used next to the select CP file entry. The same is also true for the quick control to menu page where we went to enable it. You can see which file you're using there, and actually you'll even change that file there, but it is there. However, that information is also provided in a more heads-up way that you don't have to go dig through menus. So to start with, if you have the detailed shooting information enabled, hit the info button to see all of the icons. The custom picture file number is shown here near the top right of the column, or top of the right-hand column. Additionally, the gamma curve and color space that it uses are shown here at the bottom middle of the screen. That said, when you use the EVF, that gamma and color space information will move to the bottom of the right column instead of being in the middle of the screen, so it's a little less intrusive. The custom picture file number is also shown on this detailed shooting info screen, which you get to by pressing the info button until it shows up. It's here on the left side of the third row, and in this case, the camera also shows the custom picture's gamma, the files, gamma curve, and color space as well. Finally, the file number, custom picture file number, is shown on the top LCD's second page. By default, you switch to that by pressing the backlight button. The custom picture file number is found on the right side of the second line. So now that we've got the custom picture system enabled, let's take a look at the custom picture menu and the various options and what they do. The 4 newly enabled entries, when it is enabled, will be Select CP File, Edit CP File, Save CP File, and Status. So with that information, let's actually dive in and take a look at how we use each of these entries. So we'll start with the first entry, Select Custom Picture or CP File. This is where you go to select or change the active custom picture profile, or as Canon calls them, files. The active custom picture file controls not only what the images look like when you're recording them, but also what settings you're editing when you edit things, and the source or destination when transferring to or from a flash card, respectively. Now, unfortunately, like the main custom picture menu entry, the camera only displays the current file number here for most things. So for example, you'll just see C3. And whether that slot is protected or not. In any event, to select a custom picture file through the menus, from the custom picture menu, again on the color tone dynamic range page, or page 4 of the red shooting menu, select the CP file entry. You'll then be presented with a list of 20 custom picture files that the camera can store. They're numbered C1 through C20, along with their user-assigned names. So, for example, the file C3 here, which is one of the factory defaults, is named Canon Log 3 because it's the Canon Log 3 profile. Now, in addition to doing this through the custom picture menu, you can also change the active custom picture file through the Display To or Q2 quick control menu. The setting you're looking for, or the virtual button you're looking for, is found here in the top right position, again on the second page. Selecting the Select CP virtual button brings up a scrollable list of the custom picture files on the camera, though this time that list also includes the file number, the name, the protection state, and that file's gamma curve, color space, and color matrix. So this is actually a bit more useful if you don't know exactly what every file number is. Now, while the custom picture system is certainly more complex than the picture style system, Canon does make it usable or approachable for most people by providing a number of pre-configured defaults that basically you can just start using right out of the box. However, if you want to adjust things or you need to tweak things, to edit one of these files or create your own files will be something that you want to do. And that brings us to the Edit Custom Picture or CP File menu. This is where you go to change the active custom picture file's settings. This includes renaming it, protecting it, resetting it, and of course, all of the image-related settings. Now, in this video, I'm only going to cover 3 functions that you find on the Edit page: Protect, Rename, and Reset. All of the image-related settings are going to be covered in depth in subsequent videos where I can actually explore and demonstrate the changes and differences that each of the settings make so you can better understand what they do. So, with that said, the first thing that we need to know about with editing custom picture files is the Protect function. Custom picture files can be protected against changes, and this includes being reset or overwritten with a new file or set of settings from a card. All of the factory default files that are set on the camera are protected this way by default. Protected CP files are usually indicated with a key icon next to their name or number in most of the places where you would go to select or change files. Now, additionally, when the file is protected and you go to the Edit CP File menu, the Protect entry will show Protect as its setting, and all of the settings that you see for that file will be grayed out or disabled. Now you can protect your own configurations by changing this protect setting to protect. Likewise, you can unprotect the default files by selecting one of them and then changing the protect setting to unprotect. This is another place where the hybrid cameras differ from their cinema counterparts, as on the cinema cameras in broadcast formats like Rec 709, the protect setting doesn't lock you out of the basic image adjustments like black level calibration. Now, after being able to protect and unprotect files, the next most important thing I think that you need to know about is renaming your customized files. See, each file can have a custom name that essentially is there for your information to describe its function or the configuration that it's used instead of just having to remember what number you changed. For example, if we look at the defaults, Canon has a default file that says Canon 709 and Canon Log 3. These are much easier to understand what they're going to do than it would be to have CP1 and CP3 instead. Now, unfortunately, the R5 Mark II and R1 don't display these names everywhere I really think they should, basically anywhere you can select or change a file. That said, even though that doesn't seem like, or makes it, the good naming seem a little bit redundant, it is a good practice to get into. And it's also the only place where you can define information about your custom picture file if you go to save or load that file to a card. So changing a file name is done reasonably easily by hitting the rename entry at the top of the edit menu. Names can be up to 16 characters long. They can use upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. And remember, they're only for your reference. The camera doesn't use the name internally for anything specific. Now finally, the last function that I want to cover in the edit menu is reset. This function allows you to reset the current file to one of 7 built-in defaults. Now, 6 of these correspond to the 6 factory configured custom picture files that you'll find on your R5 Mark II or R1. The final option in the list is the default that's used in the remaining 14 user files that Canon allows you to use. Resetting the current file not only resets all of the image-related settings back to whatever default you choose, but also resets the file's name and protection status. So, for example, if you reset the C10 entry to the Canon Log 2 default, you will find that that entry has now been renamed Canon Log 2, and all of its settings are protected. Now, if you want to reset any of the custom entries back to their original user number, naming convention, and settings, the entry that you're looking for in the list is user Canon 709. Now that you've looked at all of the editing options or edited your files and done some customization to them, the next thing you might want to do is back up that file or transfer it to another camera so that you have synchronized settings. That brings us to the Save CP File menu. Now, personally, I'm going to make the argument here that the name of this menu is misleading. Adjustments that you make in the Edit menu are saved automatically as soon as you make them. So what then are we doing here? Well, this menu is actually for transferring custom picture files to and from the camera's internal storage and a flash card. This is also a part of the custom picture implementation on the R5 and R1, where you will find some of the biggest differences between those cameras and Canon's cinema cameras. So, to start with, just like on the Cinema EOS OS, you can only save 20 custom picture files for each model camera to a flash card. Now, you can have more than 20 custom picture files on a card, but they have to be from different camera models. So like your R5 Mark II, your R5C, your C400, those can all be on the same card, all 20 of them, giving you 60 files total on the card, but they're not all from the same camera. Moreover, the R5 Mark II and R1 use the same folder structure. So custom picture files are saved in the private/C_PICT folder on the card, which both platforms use, and use the same naming convention, or cpict, CPICT, followed by 3 characters .cpf. Also, like the cinema cameras, the saved custom picture files are only compatible with the same model camera. So you can't take the Log 2 profile from your R5 Mark II, copy it to a card, and then try to load it into your R5C to get Log 2 footage. Now, one of the places where they differ is that on the cinema cameras, the custom picture files can only be written to and read from an SD card, and only the second SD card slot if your camera has dual SD cards like the C80 does. On the R5 Mark II and R1, the custom picture files are saved to the same card as your movie files are. Now, this distinction is important because the camera also only looks at that active memory card when you try to load custom picture files from it into the camera's memory. Now, in either case, when saving or loading, the camera indicates which card it's using with an icon here at the top of the Save to Card or Load from Card menu page. Now, to change cards that it's loading or saving from, you need to change the target for your movie recording. This is done using either the record function plus card/folder select menu on the file card/card settings page, or page 1 of the yellow settings menu section, or the card select quick control menu entry on the quick control menu. Now, Canon's hybrid cameras also use a different save and load user interface or screen compared to their cinema camera counterparts as well. In fact, it's one that makes naming your files really important. On the cinema cameras, both saving and loading interfaces show a live preview of the picture style or the custom picture file that you're loading or overwriting on the card so you can see what you're going to be replacing. On the hybrid cameras, you only get a list of the available files. So aside from that descriptive name, there is no way to tell what the file you're actually transferring looks like. Okay, so with that said, to save a custom picture file to your flash card, first, ensure that the card you want to use is set as the target for your movie recordings. Then head to the custom picture menu and select Save CP File. Then select Save to Card. When you do that, you'll be presented with the option to either create a new file on the card, or if there are already files on the card for that model camera, to select one to overwrite. Either way, you'll be prompted to confirm that you're sure you want to do what you're doing, and then after you confirm that you do, the prompt will show you which custom picture files on the card is going to be overwritten or saved and what the process is going to look like, and then you can go ahead and do it. Now, to load a custom picture file from the card into the camera's memory, again, start by ensuring you've selected the correct card. Then head to the Custom Pictures menu, use the Select CP File menu entry to select the internal CP file that you want to load your settings into or overwrite, and make sure it's unprotected. Then go to the Save CP File menu, select Load from Card. And again, you'll be presented with a list of all the compatible custom picture files that are on that card. Select the file that you want to load, and again, you'll be prompted with a confirmation screen showing you what file will be loaded into which of the camera's internal memory slots, and then select OK to proceed or Cancel to return to the previous menu. Now, if you run into problems here are a couple of troubleshooting steps that you can take to make things hopefully work. First of all, if no custom picture files are listed, which is probably the problem you're going to look at, the first thing to do is check that you have selected the correct card that you're trying to load them from. So if they're on your SD card, make sure your movie target is the saved target is the SD card. If that doesn't work, you can pull the card out of your camera, stick it in your computer, and check that there are, in fact, CPF files in the private/C_picked folder. If there are, then it's almost certainly going to be the case that those files were created on a different model camera and you will not be able to load them. Now, the last entry in the custom picture menu is probably the simplest. It's simply titled Status. And this brings up a nice, easy to read listing of all of the settings that are set for the current custom picture file. This includes every one of the individual detailed settings that are buried throughout the edit submenus. So you can get a quick overview of what settings that are actually set for the file that you're using. So now that I have covered the custom picture menu and using it, there are a couple of other ways that you can get to the menu and some of its settings that aren't enabled by default. Shortcuts, if you will. The first and simplest of these is through a custom button function. Again, this is not enabled by default, but any of the customizable buttons except for the shutter release, the movie record button, the multi-controller, and the flash control button that's on your flashes can be set to CP, which will bring up the custom picture menu directly. The other option is to add a shortcut button to the custom picture menu to your live overlay quick control menu. To do this, you use the Customize Quick Controls menu found on page 7 or the Shutter Control / Assist Shooting page of the red shooting menu when in video mode. Now, if you're interested in doing that, I have a more detailed video looking at customizing the Quick Control menu, and again, I'll link that in all of the usual places so that you can find it. Finally, you can add the top-level custom picture menu to your My Menu system. This is done through the configure entry on the My Menu page where you want to add this entry to. So that about wraps up getting around the custom picture system on the EOS R5 Mark II and of course its R1 sibling. Next time we're going to start looking at all of the settings in the edit menu that you use to customize the look of your image through the custom picture system. That said, I hope you found this useful or at least interesting. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button. Also, if this kind of thing seems like it might be your kind of thing, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Finally, if you'd like to help and support this channel, you can help us for free by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and leaving a comment with your experiences. Likewise, you can support us by hitting that thanks button or buying yourself something you've always wanted from one of the affiliate links in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.